A new poll released overnight has a lot of troubling results for Donald Trump and Republicans. The poll from Washington Post, ABC News, and Ipsos shows that support for Donald Trump is cratering, driven largely by deep disapproval over his handling of his top issues. Now, I'll get to the polls more in more detail in just a moment, but first, let's talk about the reasons behind this fall in support, and let's start with the Strait of Hormuz. Its effective closure has caused a huge oil shock and supply chain issues globally that are affecting Americans' pocketbooks. Today, the average cost of a gallon of regular gasoline in the United States is $4.45, up again by a couple of cents from yesterday. Now, gas prices are not at record highs, but the rate at which they have been rising is unprecedented. The Wall Street Journal estimates that Americans actually spent $125 million more on gasoline this past Friday, May 1st, than they did the previous Friday, April 24th, where the average price of gas was $4.06 a gallon. The World Bank is also forecasting that commodity prices will increase by 16% this year, driven by the rising cost of transportation and the shortage in fertilizer. At a congressional hearing last week, the Congressman Ro Khanna of California said that he'd done the math on what the war would cost Americans. He said it was an extra $5,000 a year spent on food and gas per household. And then there's the actual military cost of the war itself. A Pentagon official told Congress last week that the government has already spent $25 billion in taxpayer money in just the first 2 months of the war. Bottom line is prices are going to continue to go up, or at least remain elevated for the near future. Even if the war with Iran ended at this very moment, it would still take months for things to return to normal. And it doesn't appear likely that we're close to ending this war, regardless of the Trump administration's claim that the war has been, quote, terminated. And by the way, according to them, this war isn't even a war. Trump now says that he calls it a, quote, military operation, which sounds like this administration is floundering, because it is. Its messaging about the war isn't working because the cost of the war is now part of every American's reality. It is something that people think about now every time they get into a car or change the temperature on the thermostat at home. Trump clearly wants to move past the war as soon as possible, but it's not something that he can talk his way out of this time. Multiple recent polls have shown that his approval rating has sunk to new lows. And this morning, his disapproval rating reached a new high in the latest poll I was just telling you about from the Washington Post, ABC News, and Ipsos. 62% of Americans say they disapprove of the job that Donald Trump is doing. That is up 9 points from the beginning of his second term. It is the highest disapproval rating recorded by this particular poll across Donald Trump's 2 terms in office so far. When asked about specific issues, the results showed even higher disapproval ratings on some of Trump's key policies. Take a look at this. 76% disapproval for his handling of the cost of living, a key campaign issue for him. 72% disapproval for inflation, a key campaign issue for him. 66% disapproval for the war in Iran, something he said he wouldn't do. 65% disapproval on the economy, a key campaign issue for him. 59% disapproval on immigration, a key campaign issue for him. The numbers don't lie. This administration has yet to prove that it is capable of delivering on any of its promises, except, it seems, cutting taxes for the rich and deregulation. Americans are running out of patience, and Republicans are running out of runway to turn this country around. But if this administration does want to turn things around, they'll need to come up with better answers to some tough questions about how they're actually running this country.